So I'm just going to jump around a bit, but Lois, I might jump back to you, and I'm just going to stick on the sort of personal stories level for a second. You were telling me about one of the challenges being you miss out on those informal networking situations, and you told me about a particular time, when something happened, when you pitched something.
Okay.
So, yep.
So it's actually the series that I'm about to go into pre-production on. So the point that I was making, it's sort of there are huge advantages of living in this area, but for me one of the disadvantages to work in the industry is that a lot of the networking and opportunities, they come out of just informal interactions. So if you're in the city and you're like in Chippendale, all of the, there's that whole hub of, there's all these different film production companies right next to each other, screenwriters is there, cutting edge is there. People run into each other in coffee shops, they go out for drinks. It's at that level of informal networking that people will just tell somebody some piece of information or make some introduction that's actually half the time how things get going and relationships happen. And so that was actually the case for my children's series, it's called Grace Beside Me, and I'm producing it with Dina Curtis, who's a wonderful producer who I know works with Veronica as well. Dina and I were editing a short film in Sydney. We just decided to go out for drinks, and I so nearly didn't go. I just thought, I'm not a real extrovert. I'm a bit of an introvert, and I don't really want to. And just going, come on. So we went out and we had the drinks, and then at the drinks, the person that we met up with had just actually been talking to somebody else who said, this network is looking, NITV is actually really interested in, a kids series that's adapted from a novel by an Indigenous writer. And the short film that we were cutting was also a spin-off from a novel for kids by an Indigenous writer. And we went, oh my God. So then Dina sort of casually goes out and on the spot rings the commissioning editor at NITV. And the next day we were pitching it, And if I hadn't gone out for those drinks, that whole chain of events wouldn't have happened. So to me, that's the reason why you've just got to constantly go to anything like this, go to the SPA conference, any conferences, anything like that. Just even if you are a bit shy, to just go for it and just circulate as much as possible and
drink more. It's good. Write that down, people.
We've even had that at the SPA conference. It was sort of the drinks, or the conversation that you have in the coffee queue is often the one that turns out to give you the golden opportunity. So that's my message really, is to just put yourself out there as much as possible. Don't aggressively harass people, but seize every opportunity to have that interaction and make friends as well.
David, facing the problems that you were seeing that you're having with the networks here, you decided to go to America. Can you tell us a little bit about that trip and why you went?
Yeah, I thought, well, I'm not going to curse the darkness anymore. I'm going to give it a shot. So I put it on the credit card, which a lot of us have got to do to survive, and not the first time or the last time that's going to happen. And I went to San Francisco, and I timed it with the Veterans for Peace. These are World War Vietnam vets that had been disillusioned by war and what their country had done to them. Oliver Stone was going to be there, and Helen Caldecott, and a few other interesting speakers. It was at Berkeley campus there, where sort of all the hippies and the flower children of what I related to when I was at university, early 70s. That's where it had its birth. Anyway, I'd written ahead to Helen Caldecott, who I knew from my anti-nuclear docos, and said, if you get a chance, will you introduce me to Oliver Stone, because I've got a series on West Papua, a drama series that I'd like to do, and he's an obvious sort of person if I could get there to get his ear. Well, it was an interesting conference and so on, but and I got the card from his PA, but he was besieged by all these Vietnam vets and their wives that wanted to shake his hand and so on. He was just about to release Snowden, and so his PA told me, look, he's basically going to be off the Richter scale until sort of end of October, November. So I kept it in mind and sort of sent her an email, follow up the next day, and a week or two later like that. In the meantime, then drove down, skirted Los Angeles because I've been to LA before, and like Dana, I sort of know that's a place you can get lost in. If you've got a job and you've got sort of a network, that's good. But if you're coming in, as I did about 40 years ago when I was trying to first of all break into the film industry, it can be a pretty disillusioning sort of place. So I went south to San Diego, and I managed to be able to hustle up some apartment to stay with Trina, my partner, and our 7-year-old child, and my other 22-year-old son who was trying to break into the skate professional circuit there. He's a pretty of a mad, good street skater. So I sort of did what I didn't think I was going to do, but I don't know myself as well as I think. When I started to realise that this was going to be, and the idea was, since I couldn't get any ins anymore to ABC or SBS, I'd try and see if I could get an in to Netflix, who are obviously expanding their world footprint, and sort of all the ads were going saying, with this is getting that many more subscribers, and we're coming into Asia, stuff like that. HBO, Amazon, and Sundance Channel. I went to the Independent Film Project, which was a group of filmmakers. It's one of the main ones on the East Coast. And I went to the Documentary Association's for filmmakers in LA about a month or so later. And I visited 8 other cities. And while I was going along my way, because I had my camera, I was just filming stuff which was the lead up to the shock surprise victory of Trump. But on the one hand, you could see it coming as well. And so I was using that as a sort of a skeletal, but I was looking at the underbelly of America. I was going and talking to the homeless people. I was absolutely shocked from when I'd been in America 9 years ago and 40 years ago in San Francisco, since I'd been there, how many homeless people were there, and so on. So after a little while, I decided that I would I'd basically go and talk to these people, and I'd kill the time while I waited for Hollywood to give me a phone call that never came, by making film about that and filming the debates on the television just off the TV screen with a radio mic next to the TV screen so I could get good sound. And I'm going to start learning editing on Monday with a guy came up from Sydney to do Adobe Premiere to teach me how to be an editor, because paying, even though I can cut and paste on Final Cut Pro, and I usually shoot about 100 hours, 120 hours on any doco, getting it down to a point where an editor can wrestle with it and work in a very collaborative sense, and that's the time I like most of the filmmaking process, working with a good editor to be able to come up with something organically that you didn't really realise you had when you shot it intuitively on the seat of your pants, but you actually make the film in the editing room. I digress a little bit there.
Just stopping there. So basically, you went to America to pitch, right, and didn't get any traction. But meanwhile, while you were there, you shot a film.
I'm there to kill time and to do what I am passionate about.
What a great plan B. Yeah, what a great plan B. So I think Dan and I were just saying here, off to one side, you go with one thing, but have other things in your pocket that you can actually make the most out of. If you're going to Sydney, go and have your meeting, but go to drinks afterwards, and there's a pitching opportunity. I fly to America to pitch and shoot a film while you're there. It's great. Yeah,
ended up at Standing Rock. I don't know, is Ken around? If he wants to run a little clip of that, minute and a half now. That right.
Oh, I can do it. There's 4 producers in the room.
Good on you, Dana. Get over there. Yeah.
So this is a clip from what you shot over there.
Yeah. Standing Rock kept on coming up in the news from time to time, and do most of you know what Standing Rock is? It's the old pipeline in North Dakota, and so I basically flew over there and filmed there for 4 days during the week of the elections itself, and that going on. The gut instinct that would be an interesting place to be, and these are a few images from it.
What great subject matter! And so just to go a bit further, so you're planning on learning how to edit, and then you'll cut it yourself here.
Yeah, great. Or maybe bring an editor in the last month or so to sort of finesse it,
polish it up. Yeah.
I'll invoice Ken.
Hello all! It's voting day. As exciting or depressing as that may be, those of us who have been here for 30 days or more do have the right to vote locally. So if you have questions or if you're ready to go, we have caravans and places, people ready to take you.
I was just saying how happy I am to be here rather than out there for the election. I've just been overwhelmed with it and just seeing how much it's dividing people more and more and more and more. I don't think that division is going to stop after today. I honestly think it's going to get worse.
This is way more important than Election Day. Being here, you know.
Why?
Because that America isn't real and it's not mine.
Fantastic.
I guess, Clay, if it's okay, I'd just say, ultimately, you've got to go with your passion. You've got to do what you want to do, what you feel driven to do. And if you're getting rejects from the commissioning editors and so on, the area that I'm looking next to is doing what I picked up from Graham Mason yesterday from Screen Australia's talk, and that is digital and going online and trying to get a subscriber base. It's a lot of work, like crowdfunding is, to fund your film, and I haven't really gone down that route of crowdfunding because I've got the impression that to get 15 grand, you've got to do about $100,000 worth of labour. You're better off going working up at a uranium mine or something to get the money to make your film. But yeah, that's the area that I'm interested in, and I would encourage those of you that don't have runs on the board but have got a passion and desire to put something out there and to set up a situation, which I'm looking at in the coming weeks and have been doing for a little while, where people pay $2 or $3 or something through PayPal to look at something that you've got. You might put up a teaser for 30 seconds or something on your TV channel through YouTube or Vimeo, and then build your audience bit by bit. And then you can just say basically that to the networks and the people that have been screwing us over for so long and making life very, very difficult and miserable for us. And that, so I don't know whether I would get anywhere with that in the same way that I went to the States and tried to break into Netflix and those other people like that didn't fell on its face. But I think that's my next option, the next area where I'm going to go towards.
Yeah, the product speaks for itself. So yeah, well done. So Darius, we were speaking a little bit about beyond just the film industry here in Byron, this idea of the entrepreneurial spirit. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, so I left school in 2002 and sort of based here for a couple of years after that, in between big travel stints, and I was super disillusioned with this area. I mean, it's a natural thing when you're out of school to be that way, kind of wherever you are, but it has changed so much in the last decade since I sort of properly lived here. And, you know, there's all these burgeoning industries, and with that comes a need for media, you know, of various degrees. And, you know, there's a huge fashion industry in Byron now. I don't say huge, but like considering what Byron is, it's, you know, it's a serious player in a national level. You know, I've done a substantial amount of work for Flowhive, that beekeeping startup, and you know, they half funded my last year of being up here. You know, like I got a substantial amount of work, and because I'm so used to no money, I just would eke it out, you know, and then be able to do my own stuff. So just and not just in terms of like the practicalities of being able to get jobs, but also just a culture of people getting out there and doing things. Like I love the startup culture, and you didn't say this overtly, David, but I love America too, and I love that. Yes, we can do it kind of vibe, and they don't have the dole and they don't have federal funding, which I'm so grateful for both of them because I've leaned heavily onto both of them at different parts of my life to do my work. But the spirit of not having that drives a passion that is so undeniable, and I think that even though it's not filmed here, like rely on those networks and think about the models that they're using to do whatever it is you're doing as well, because there's so much innovation in that, you know, like I go to business breakfasts, I go to startup meetings, like I get out into the community and just network with people. Sometimes it leads to a cool job, sometimes it leads to a nice breakfast, sometimes it leads to a boring talk. Like, but
That's the worst case scenario.
That's the worst case scenario. You know?
Thanks,
Like-
Darius.
But
There goes
you know,
that breakfast.
No, I met me.
Just kidding.
But you know, it's always there's always something to learn and to be gleaned from that. And I feel like I feel really lucky to be in this area where there is so much you know, entrepreneurial spirit, from like someone who's got a food truck to a beehive company to a fashion label to a, you know, it's just like everyone's trying to hustle their way to live the life up here, you know, and I think that
You have
can
to hustle, yeah.
cross over. Yeah.
So yeah, I've been doing a little bit of work in Tasmania, and I think a lot of things can actually be learnt from Tasmania. They're quite a little innovative industry there. But the things that I was noticing were the deals that were being made were between really unusual or players that I hadn't considered. So being in New South Wales, the standard finance plan is, you know, producer goes in with, you know, distributor and agency, and that. But what I was seeing in Tasmania was that like an art gallery was teaming up with somebody that had like marine science history, and you know, someone else from over here that was a caterer, and between them they'd created some new hybrid type thing, and it was being shown in an art gallery rather than a TV. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for that cross-pollination between the creative industries, and check out some work in Tasmania, because I think they're really leading the way in Australia.
Absolutely, and we could be very similar. You know, we've got all we need to follow their lead.
Great. I think we almost might be out of time. I just wanted to end on, I spoke to all of you about the positives of living here. Could I just go along from Darius back and tell me something we haven't spoken about yet, but that you see as a really positive thing about living regionally and, you know, working outside?
Well, I mean, I guess I said it really. It's like I get to go surfing every day. Like, it's really that simple for me, you know, and I really mean that, like, I'm no less stressed. Like, it's not like the workload decreases. It's just that having a payoff like that is amazing, and it's that means the world to me, to be able to have that connection and that release on a daily basis.
Lois?
Obviously, well, that's lifestyle is obviously a healthy place to live as well. So it's a good balance from the madness of some aspects of the industry. That said, I still average, 12 hours a day work. The other positives for me is community, and that sense of community, and that's really important to me. And also just a sense of place and country, and I'm sort of, having grown up here, also just really aware that I'm on, living and working on Aboriginal land, and I sort of try and be respectful about that in my work, and to always find opportunities to work with the local Aboriginal community wherever I'm working. But in return, I get really a lot of inspiration from community and place and the beautiful landscapes here in particular.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. One of the motivations is the beauty of the landscape up here, and nature, and the sense of belonging, community, people that you can friendly say hello to or nod in if you never had a conversation with them. Community is important to me as well, in terms of giving me continuing strength to go on and to be a filmmaker, and with all that means, and also love coming back to Wilson's Creek after I've been on the edge of wherever it is in the other side of the world. Sort of dangerous situations or crowded situations where things are pretty sort of dire for people environmentally or in terms of conflict zones. It's always really nice to be able to fill up your cup knowing that the landscape around you at Wilson's Creek there that I sit on my veranda and look out towards is 23 million years old, and just my own perspective as a small dot on the face of that, it gives you a good perspective, and it's good to go forward from that point.
Dana?
I'll just make it really quick. I think the advantages for you guys being emerging producers or filmmakers here is I've lived all over the world, major cities, small cities, Queensland, Victoria, New South Wales. You guys are so lucky to live in a place where you have so many opportunities to be creative. I know you don't get paid much for doing it, but none of us when we started in our career, no matter where we were based, got paid much when we started out, so don't think it's a Byron Bay thing. You've got music festivals, you've got film festivals, you've got surf festivals. All these things always need volunteers to make content for them. If you're not tapping into that, you should. It's incredible. And then through those opportunities, you get to meet all these big brands that are actually spending money on content. And then Screenworks is amazing, SAE is amazing. You guys are sitting in a little gold mine of being able to make content for lots of people. So get out there and hustle.
I just wanted to add something about this that's unique to this community that I think is a unique advantage, which is that it is such a creative community, and so the writers and the arts and all those opportunities, as you've seen in Tasmania, for that to all connect and work together and really innovate is something that this region is a real strength. And just to finish up, also just how fantastic it is that we have Screenworks here, and we have that industry, sort of like a formal industry community here as well, that's kind of like a family for us all, and to an opportunity also for us to have that access to the wider industry, but to also support each other.
Just looping back to Tasmania, to finish off, one thing Tasmania has done incredibly well is it's got a brand. It knows its brand now, but it's been working on that brand for quite some time. There's been other players in the marketplace that have helped with that, Mona and the tourism industry and things like that. From an outsider's perspective, like Byron So has a brand. It has a brand, and the more that you as screen makers can tap into that and connect with each other over that, and for Screenworks to be taking that to the market, that is so unique from my perspective. And again, take a look at Tassie for a lead there, and I think that will only grow your industry here and strengthen it, both in Australia but also internationally. I think the Netflixes of this world, are looking for things like Byron. Yeah.
I was just going to say about for anyone who's looking to have to go to Sydney or Melbourne, you don't have to move there full time because all of our work is freelance. Yeah. So, you might do a 2-week gig or a 1-week gig or a 3-month gig. It's all different. I don't know if all you guys are on Facebook, the death of society. But there is a couple of freelance crewing pages. One's called Australia I Need Crew. And there is daily about 10 entry-level jobs in there. Don't tell them, like I said this last year, don't say, hi, I'm from Byron Bay and I'm looking for a job. They don't need to know where you're from. But if you can stay with a mate or a cousin in Sydney for 2 weeks, take the job. Get someone to rent out your room for 2 weeks here.
That's what I was going to say too. It's just about getting production experience wherever you can get it. So you can live here, but there's not enough production happening here yet.
We're going to change that.
Look broader. Yeah.
Sell that brand.
There's also Australia. There's Australia I Need Crew. I Need an Editor Australia. It's for anyone who's got any post-production experience. And a lot of it you can do from home. That's what I do.
I think you just have to look for where the projects are that you'll
Whoever's
get an
paying.
opportunity on. Yeah.
I say Melbourne, it's rad.
I think we could probably argue about that all day. Can you please take a moment to thank all of these wonderful guest speakers here today?